Thank you all so much for the warm welcome and support in the first part of this video. This means a whole lot to me, I truly appreciate it. As promised, this is the second part of that campaign. We will be changing cultures, tags, religions, moving our capital around the continents, all in the name of fun. If you'd like to see part 1, the link will be in the description. We continue with a quick war against Sweden. If you were paying attention, you would have seen me putting my troops in position at the end of part 1. Sweden obviously presents really no military challenge right now. They are allied to HRE. I apologize to the Dutch speakers for mispronouncing, and I decided to separate peace HRE by giving its provinces to my vassal Holland. And for Sweden, this is 100% peace deal. Releasing Finland feels right to me because they still have a lot of course on Sweden, and I'm trying to preserve my governing capacity. As a quick reminder, we have 5 vassals: Brandenburg, Holland, Oldenburg, Coburg and now Finland, and we have England as our PU. And over in the New World, we have a tiny colonial Canada. Finland got pretty much everything we've just conquered. That's because I'm still coring the lands I got from Bohemia in the previous war. In 1600, we're right on schedule for our World Conquest, just over 2000 development. France wants to conquer Rome. This is becoming ridiculous. They're attacking everyone around them, calling me into their wars. They also keep flipping religions. They went reformed for a while and now they're Catholic again. Interesting, they actually took Rome in the peace deal. They must have suffered all the usual debuffs as a Catholic taking Rome. But I'm starting to worry a little bit about how strong France is becoming. Our truce with Austria has expired. I had fabricated so many claims on them. Now is a good time to put these claims to use. The Austrians did manage to put up a bit of a fight, but even remotely not enough to make it a challenge. I've decided to release Munich as a vassal on these newly conquered lands, because they still have some cores to conquer, including the capital Munich itself, and I just don't like to be overextended. Bohemia is next. I think it's time to put them out of their misery. After the age of absolutism arrived, I selected this reform, Puppet the Nobility. It's available to me because I took the espionage ideas, and it allows me to revoke privileges without causing revolts. I'm doing this because I want to increase my maximum absolutism, of course. I need to get it above 85, so I can safely launch the court and country disaster. Not all of my campaigns are world conquests, but this one is, and for our game, court and country is critical. It gives plus 20 maximum absolutism, and that permits us to have more admin efficiency while having some estate privileges enacted. I went once again through the government reforms and selected the ones which increase absolutism, like this one. Still, even after revoking even more critical privileges, I am at 74% maximum absolutism. 1% is probably due to my lack of religious unity. I can get an extra 5% from the Golden Era, but I will need to revoke more privileges. There is now a monument in the Arabian Peninsula which increases maximum absolutism by another 10. To reach it though, I will need to fight my way through the Ottomans. Whoa, the Bohemian provinces are super expensive. Well, we take as many as we can. I'm so overextended, I keep feeding Brandenburg. If I'm not cautious, they can become rebellious soon. As for Sweden, we can keep feeding it to our vassal Finland. As I had mentioned in part 1, I had placed my dynasty on the French throne. I had to do it a couple of times because they kept losing my heir. The dilemma here is if I risk breaking my alliance with them now to claim their throne. This guy is young, only 19 years old, he can get an heir of his own within these 5 years of my truce. He happens to be infertile, which reduces the chance of heir by 50%. I just couldn't decide. You may have seen in my previous peace deals, I now have a massive risk of a coalition. What I'm doing to prevent it is every time my truce timers expire with someone, I immediately attack them. So most of the countries who can enter the coalition against me are almost always locked behind the truce. I like to constantly drag most of Europeans into my wars. I'm signing separate peace agreements with pretty much every participant. If they don't exist, they cannot hurt me. Apparently, we have subdued Brandenburg, and this mission gives us minus 20% aggressive expansion for 30 years. I absolutely want it. Now I'm even more happy to sign these separate peace deals with the small European countries. In the middle of these small European wars, I managed to put my heir on the Russian throne. I hope he stays there. Soon there will be no independent Europeans left, apart from me, France and Hungary. Russia is fighting Ting. Are they going for a world conquest too? Attacking Liege had brought me into a war with my former ally Brittany, but I had white peaced them for now. I'd rather take a lot of land from them later. I also assume that taking Brittany's land, which is ex-Burgundy's land, will bring me into a direct conflict with France. Who, by the way, have just gotten an heir of my dynasty and a weak claim. Now this is a perfect situation to claim their throne and go for the personal union war. They have a small set of weak allies, although of course France itself is really powerful. Having said that, even if Russia doesn't join me in this war, I have almost the double amount of troops. That is, if England bothers to leave their island and land on the continent. This opportunity is just too good to pass. I would be stupid not to act right now. We claim the French throne and they immediately break their alliance with us. We now need to wait out the 5 years truce with France before attacking them. The chances of something going wrong are very low. Unless the heir dies naturally, France would need to actively disinherit him. And I haven't seen AI do this so far. Do they actually disinherit their heirs? I've never thought about it. Meanwhile, our maximum absolutism is only 79. We can get it above 85 of course, by revoking some remaining privileges and starting off our golden era. For that, I've met the third objective of the age by building 5 universities. As a side note, look, we have a fully professional army whom we're constantly drilling. I know many people neglect both of these mechanics, but they actually help a lot. Look how many benefits 100% professionalism gives you. These are some fantastic military buffs. People take entire idea groups to get some of them, for example siege ability and mercenary cost. And drilling is nothing to scoff at either. These are the benefits of a fully drilled army, and there are many ways in the game to keep your drill modifier high at 100%. I just wanted to call it out because if you pay attention to little things like this, your game will be so much easier. Alright, back to our main storyline. It is still too early to attack France, we still have truce with them. I'm just planning ahead to see who will join my war. Russia doesn't want to join it because it's over 4,000 ducats in debt. And Portugal doesn't want to join it because they have excellent relations with France. Unfortunately, so do I, so I cannot ask Portugal to lower their relationships with France. You see, our own opinion of France is more than 75. I could theoretically insult them, but because I want to make them a personal union, I will need to keep my relationships high. I've paid out some of Russia's debt, so now they will join me if I promise them some territory from Lithuania. But with Portugal I will need to see if they join the war after I start it. This is the biggest war of our game so far. Let's go! You would probably know that the war to claim the throne is all about occupying and holding the capital of the enemy. The battles themselves don't give you so much war score. This is probably why France keeps bringing all of its army to protect its capital here. I had to really overstack to defeat them securely again and again. France has some of the strongest armies in the game. I suggest not to joke around with them. And just as I had predicted, my junior partner England keeps its armies on its island. Although, to be fair, they're trying to land a tiny stack of 13,000 in France. This war took 6 years of bloody battles and high attrition sieges. Even when obviously defeated, France remained stubborn and did not want to become my junior partner. But now they're done. I had to defeat them to 99% war score for them to accept my demands, which are worth 84%. Towards the end of the war, I even got cold feet, thinking that maybe I should have gone for just conquest instead. You see, France occupies the lands of Sardinia-Piedmont, whom I obviously wanted to form to get a couple of their strong missions, including the extra admin efficiency. Now, I will need to wait out 50 years of having France as personal union and then integrate them before becoming Sardinia-Piedmont. I should have thought about things like this before, but I was so excited to get France as my junior partner that honestly I didn't. Anyway, it's done. In addition to England, I now have France under my personal union. I also took more than 3,000 ducats from them in this peace deal to pay for my war expenses. France comes complete with most of Italy, apart from 2 Sicilies which remain on the fringes, and Mediterranean islands. They sound like a fantastic target. Look, I have a lot of claims on them from the English and French missionaries. And if we co-belligerate knights, we will get the Papal States as part of the deal, although I don't even know where they are. France is a little bit disloyal. The good news, it's easy to fix by paying off their debt. It's only 5,000 ducats. From my many subjects, I now have a massive swarm. I don't even need to fight any wars by myself right now. My vassals and personal unions will do that for me. All I need to do is set out some objectives for them, and off they go. It's now 1635. We have just conquered pretty much the entire Europe, only a few small countries remain outside of the Iberian. I would say, if we stay focused, the World Conquest is in our pocket. I have just noticed Portugal doesn't have an heir. We can place our dynasty on their throne, and now we have Portugal and Russia, which we can also potentially PU. As for our game score progress, we have almost 4,000 development. Please remember that the junior partners of personal unions and vassals count for half of the development, meaning in reality we have much more. We cannot take all of 2 Sicilies because of how developed they are, but we can take a lot. We have nothing left to gain by staying Hanover. Now is the time for our next switch to Prussia. A few years ago, I have intentionally lost the HRE election for two reasons. One is I want to dismantle HRE right now, and two, because I wanted to stop automatically accepting all Germanic cultures, so I could switch to relevant culture to form Prussia. In my case, this would be Saxon. Usually, it's quite difficult or impossible to switch from one German tag to another. Prussia is an exception. Regional German tags, like Hanover, can still form Prussia. I'm switching to the Saxon culture and not Prussian, simply because I have more development there. I've been converting provinces to Saxon for quite a while already. The Saxon culture is now over 50% of my stated lands, and I can shift to it. And now we can simply reform into Prussia. I wanted to show this basic process of becoming another country, because I see folks asking about it under different videos. We are now Prussia, and because they have very strong traditions and ideas, I decided to take those. We have automatically left the HRE, because we are neither the emperor nor an elector. In all honesty, I should have left HRE quite a while ago, I simply forgot to do it. Well, now we can become an empire once again. The Prussian missionary is one of the strongest in Europe. It gives a whole lot of claims, and it also gives very good modifiers. Some missions require you to have rivals, and so it makes sense to become Prussia sooner rather than later, before you run out of viable rivals. Apologies for not doing a karaoke here, reading out the missions. I'll just do a few highlights. Fundamentally, all I want from this mission tree is admin efficiency. If we do it right, we'll be able to get 8% admin efficiency from this. I had used up some of my professionalism fighting France, and for some of my missions I'm bringing it back to almost 100%. Well, actually, let's do full 100. This mission, the balance of power, requires us to have both allies and rivals who are great powers. It gives us 3% extra of admin efficiency if we upgrade the Berlin monument to the top level. These few missions that I'm ticking off now give us even more claims, development discounts, and another minus 15% aggressive expansion impact. All good, but the real value is in opening the final mission in this branch, which gives 5% admin efficiency. A few other missions will buff up our military, and if I recall correctly, also increase our maximum absolutism. In other words, forming Prussia, always worth it. In hindsight, I should have annexed a couple of my vassals before unstating so much land. I did not prepare well for this, and I will be losing a lot of money until I can full state enough territories. By losing so much stated development, I now appear weak to my neighbors, and many of them are now forming a coalition against me. I've decided to half state my lands for now, and full state them gradually. Not everyone around me has joined that coalition yet though, and before they do, let's fight them. I'm still very poor after my badly managed transition. After declaring this war, I moved my troops away from the front line and lowered their maintenance. I expect my little subject swarm to deal with the enemies. I'm intentionally staying overextended right now, because I'm trying to launch the court and country disaster. For that, I need to have at least one revolt risk for 3 years. As soon as the revolt risk drops below 1, the disaster progress stops. Questionable game design if you ask me, but what can we do? I keep harsh treating my rebels to raise some absolutism. I have to cancel almost all the estate privileges to get my maximum absolutism above 85. We're now there at 89 with a bit of margin. We can now get the maximum absolutism from this disaster. I am now struggling to keep my vassals loyal because I had to cancel the strong duchies. As soon as the previous scores are complete, we full annex mines. We no longer need to mismanage our country because we have finally launched that disaster. We'll now have 10 years of revolts, although most negative events of this disaster are front-loaded and they happen within the first couple of years. Soon enough we'll be able to continue our expansion as normal. I attacked Hungary because they were just sitting there right next to the Ottomans, looking all vulnerable. They are allied to Spain and Brittany, and I used this opportunity to grab Granada for myself, obviously to get the monument, which gives 5% admin efficiency. This one, the Alhambra, probably my favorite monument in the entire game. I'm letting Brittany go easily, just for some money and war reparations, because I want to attack them directly soon. Hungary is fully occupied and defeated now. I am just waiting for my early course to complete, and unfortunately Russia has lost my heir to their throne. You probably know, because of my Dithmarschen heritage, I have a lot of cores on the Russian heartland. They are growing completely unconstrained now, so I decided to weaken them a little bit by taking out the European parts. I even set the capital, Moscow, as my war target. And from Hungary I'm taking all of their money and a few forts. While my vassal swarm was occupying the Russian forts, Russia has decided to invade my European lands through Finland and Denmark. All I had to do to block them was to park my fleet in the strait. And there we go, the armies are now moving back. They seem to have moved all their troops into Scandinavia. Sometimes the AI logic is beyond me. Getting the full score against them will take ages. They have forts all the way into India and China. War score around 70 to get some of their best lands suits me well. Time to eliminate the Holy Roman Empire. I've kept them around long enough for no reason whatsoever. Nothing can be easier right now. We occupy the two capitals and get prestige, splendor and power projection. Honestly, I should have done it many years ago. Several of my vassals in Europe remained members of the Holy Roman Empire, and they were furious with me for illegally holding the HRE land and annexing the HRE members. A silly mistake, but now corrected. These two little dots were the emperor and one remaining elector. Imagine, I totally forgot about them until reading the tooltips of why my vassals were disloyal. We have successfully completed the court and country disaster, began annexing some of our vassals, we are making very good money right now, so life is good, we can keep rolling. My maximum absolutism is above 100 now, so I can take back some of the critical estate privileges, like the strong duchies and the nobility integration policy. Meanwhile, the massive Ottomans have gotten the Janissary coup. I am delighted to see that. They are starting their collapse from the peak of their power, and right on schedule. This is now the middle of the 17th century. It does not always happen. In my Aztec game, for example, they survived and even became the economic hegemon, which is why I am even more pleased to see the beginning of their decadence. A few years ago, I had allied Tafilalt and carried enough favors with them to break their alliance with Castile. Castile will now be my regular war target, and I want them as weak as possible. I don't have a good casus belli against Castile, so I'm going with colonialism. In the middle of this global war, we annex our ever disloyal Brandenburg. This immediately completes an entire branch of our mission tree. Claims. More claims. This one is unusual. Promoting a culture reduces aggressive expansion by 3. Although, how many cultures am I going to promote? And my aggressive expansion now is in the hundreds. Back to Spain. My ally Portugal helped me occupy the Spanish colonial territories, and I was able to get 90% war score. I took a few remote lands in Africa and Asia, and I'm taking this line of provinces in the north. During my war with Lithuania and Denmark, I finished upgrading the Alhambra monument. Now I have 15 extra admin efficiency points, 5 from Alhambra and a total of 10 from my Dithmarschen and Prussian missions. For my next idea set, I'm going with my staple, offensive. I now have espionage, quantity, diplomatic, administrative, influence, and now offensive. Espionage is really no longer needed. I will soon replace it for something more useful for the end game. More money and lands in the good trade centers, and when I have extra money, as my second priority, I'm upgrading the monument in Berlin. As I had mentioned, it will give me 3% extra admin efficiency, thanks to the Prussian missions. Lithuania goes for full annexation, even though some territories are difficult to access right now. This completes a couple of more missions for us, more claims and more accepted cultures. The next mission is much more interesting. If we have 25 universities, we will experience a golden era for the lifetime of our ruler. Because we have already had a golden era, I don't know if we will get a new one. Renovating Berlin gives us some discounts for construction and development in the city at the expense of taxes. I guess it's an okay mission. The good thing is it opens us the access to these military missions. Army tradition, military power, professionalism, all good. And the Prussian legal system gives minus 10% for the admin technology cost until the end of the game, or 200 admin mana right now. I would rather take the technology discount. With Europe mostly under our control, let's see how really strong we are by attacking the Ottomans. I have waited to attack them until I got the imperialism casus belli. I was well ahead of time when I grabbed it, but I became a little impatient and wanted to start. The biggest problem fighting the Ottomans mid-game is not their army, navy or forts. It's their sheer size. It takes a lot of fighting and sieging to get a meaningful war score against them, and in the peace deal you hardly make a dent. My hope is that by defeating them, I will push them over the brink into their decadence disaster, causing their collapse and the feeding frenzy by their neighbors, cutting them to size. If this works, it will make my next wars much faster. They already have some decadence. Their forts are collapsing shockingly fast, and their army is hiding somewhere behind the fog of war. Their ally Tunis is ready to stop fighting and give me some of their coastline. We get Kilva out, which is the most annoying ally. And from the Ottomans we take all this land, chopping them up a little bit. This is actually more than I anticipated. I guess all my extra admin efficiency and war score reductions are letting me take a lot of land. Now, let's see if the Ottomans collapse, and if they do, how fast. I now have more than 200% overextension. Obviously, I will release some vassals. I released Greece and fed it land until it couldn't take anymore. And look, Ethiopia has already attacked Ottomans. We may be seeing the first signs of collapse. Look how aggressive Russia is in this patch. They have entered Persia. Such a bummer, they lost my dynasty and I wasn't able to PU them. Wallachia is next. I am surprised they survived intact until now. At this point, I am no longer reporting each step I was taking, like I used to do in the beginning of the campaign. There is just simply too much going on, and you will get quickly bored, I assume, from a blow-by-blow account. I'll try to focus on some strategic highlights as we ramp up our world conquest. Now, strategically speaking, please hear me out. I am about to do something which you may not like. I am intentionally losing this war to Switzerland, so I lose my status as the defender of the Protestant faith. Now, I'm going to go ahead and convert myself back to Catholic. We lose 100 prestige and we're now Catholic again. I am doing this for a few reasons. First, this way I can step out from the Prussian monarchy government and remove the minus 50% governing capacity limitation. I don't really need all the extra discipline. After all, I'm in the single player and I have already conquered Europe. My personal preference is for Catholic over Protestant in-game. In the game terms, it's simply a much stronger religion, especially now when I have eliminated all the Catholics and I'm pretty much guaranteed to be the Curia controller. Also, later in the game, I'm going to become Congo. As a Catholic, this will give me another missionary, accelerating my conversion rate. And maybe I can get another missionary from a Catholic monument in Mexico. I'm not sure about the last point though. In this game, I don't want to move my capital to the New World, and I'm not sure I can own just a few provinces in the New World along with my colonial nations. I will give it a try though. What I will most likely do is become a theocracy, because it gives 2 more missionaries and a set of fantastic late-game government reforms. Because we now need to convert everything, once again, we will get a ton of prestige and papal influence. It's also a fun little challenge to try and go for a one faith after only adopting this religion in 1688, while starting off with only 1 missionary. Only 5 Catholic nations remain, Brittany is the papal controller, and the Council of Trent has gone for reconciliatory stance, so I don't have an extra score against other religions. Well, at least we have some tolerance of heretics and Curia cost discounts. Our last PU opportunity came knocking on our door when Portugal lost an heir while having our dynasty on their throne. I immediately broke my alliance with them, and now we can attack. Now is a good time to drop our espionage ideas and choose religious. To say that we need them is to put it mildly. This change made us lose the second government reform, and I decided to go for the Noble Officer Corps. I have enough admin power saved up to pay for 3 ideas. The third idea is about the missionary strength. Fantastic. Ethiopia had the misfortune to be allied with Portugal. We take the Horn of Africa from them, as well as all of their forts, the passage across the straits, and just a bunch of provinces. I did co-belligerate them and I have a lot of admin efficiency, and their provinces are really cheap. Now you may be wondering, why do I need so many low development, wrong culture, wrong religion provinces? That's because my future Congolese missions will need me to convert a lot of provinces in Africa to Catholic. Also, all these Ethiopian forts are really difficult to take. After this, Portugal becomes my latest and final junior partner in a personal union. Portugal, England and the always disloyal France. Not a bad catch for the humble Dithmarschen. We could have done more if we started as a monarchy, but I am quite happy. I am already integrating France. To keep them loyal, I am almost always supporting their loyalists, which costs me a lot of money, and now and then I'm developing their provinces. That, as you know, also lowers their liberty desire. Another reason they're disloyal is because I'm overextended right now. I decided to release a vassal over here in Ethiopia. I let them have all those massive forts. Okay then, we started as a peasant republic, switched to monarchy, which helped us a lot. Time for our next government, the theocracy. This gives us an entire new set of government reforms. I am selecting the ones which will give me more conversion power, more missionaries and a stronger army. There is one and probably the single negative of being a theocracy in my situation. I can no longer have royal marriages with my vassals. It will be a little bit more difficult to keep them loyal. The good news is I'm planning to have a massive army. That should help. We now have quite a few choices for our successor. Sadly, we cannot see their stats. I like choosing the son of the merchant because he brings a lot of money. Like right now, he will bring 1.8 thousand ducats. We've completed a couple more missions. For example, this Great Prussian military reform, more army tradition, professionalism and military mana. I am at maximum professionalism though, and I decided to let this event hang in the background while I slack in some professionalism. Overall, it's good time for me to start expanding outside of my European homeland. I want to do it in such a way that I bring a lot of trade into my home nodes. Russia and the Ottomans block me due east, and I have truces with them. Africa looks like a good expansion opportunity. It's now dominated by Tafilalt, and so will take a few wars. I'm just doing separate pieces with most of the war participants. and halfway through the war we become the papal controller. I'm confident that with the amount of religious conversion I'm running, I should be able to keep the status for most of the game. For the papal bull, I usually take the one which gives the absolutism and military buffs. With this, the right government reforms and monuments, my armies remain drilled always. Ah yes, it's now 1701. Before I forget, a quick check of my development progress. It's 8.3000, we should be well on track for the World Conquest. If you saw my previous videos, I've proven that if you have 8000 development at this time, you're fine. I've delayed this mission, the University of Königsberg, for quite a while. I'm not sure it will do anything for me, but let's try. Okay, we got a few buffs, and hopefully our golden era got extended while our ruler is alive. I waited for it to end just to see how it goes, although I don't think it did. Whatever, it's fine. We take most of Timbuktu, and after the cores get complete, we take a lot of land from Tafilaut, including most of the Congo area and some good trade land in the north. I am sure you see now why I didn't expand so much outside of Europe until now, because I have been stacking up my war province cost and admin efficiency. I can take almost half a continent in my peace deal. Well, I'm exaggerating a little to make the point. It was probably not very smart to start this massive war and then sit on it while piecing out each participant separately. My war exhaustion now is at maximum, and I don't want to waste my diplomana to bring it down. So I'm having a little bit of a revolt problem. I'm sparing you from all the noise and mess though. Let's just finish this war, even if it overextends me. Yeah, you see, this is what I've been keeping behind the scenes. These massive bouts of revolts. My subjects, when loyal, even help me fight the rebels sometimes. France gets annexed, and we can continue our switcheroo of tags and cultures. Almost all of my money is going to the town halls. The governing capacity, as always, is really limiting my expansion. We inherit Rome from France, so now we are getting these debuffs. I'm sorry my fellow Catholics, but I'm keeping the city. After getting France is a great time to switch cultures. Obviously, we can full state all the rich French lands for free. In our case, this includes most of Italy. To be a bit more efficient about it this time, I want to become Sardinia-Piedmont, run through its missions, and then become Congo. Is it needed? No, it's optional. I could max out my admin efficiency from here if I form Germany and then the Roman Empire. But I thought, why not? My old capital was super developed. And before unstating any land, I moved my capital to Torino. This way, I can concentrate development to increase the share of Piedmontese culture. I had to unstate my entire country for the Piedmontese culture to become 51%. Now we culture shift and we form Sardinia-Piedmont. I want to keep my Prussian ideas though, they are objectively better. We can now complete most of this mission tree, although I really want only 2 missions. The one which gives me 5% admin efficiency, and another one which gives me minus 10% annexation cost. We got the annexation discount immediately, but for admin efficiency I need to complete a building. I had started constructing it, but it's not finished yet. A few missions in the middle are really not that important. They give us claims, most of which we have already conquered. Some missions do require us to have provinces in what is now Switzerland, so I declare the war to get those. Meanwhile, the building is complete and we can get our admin efficiency. In total, we now have 23% extra admin efficiency. That war with Switzerland was really optional. I am fighting it while having only one state, so I'm losing a ton of money. There is one more mission which I like in the Sardinian mission tree. It's this one, the center of belief. I have reached 100% religious unity via conversions and policies, and I'm the papal controller, so I get some more missionary strength until the end of the game. This is helpful. The Swiss war is done, full annexation. It needed to be done anyway, although maybe not now. At any rate, this gives us a few more missions. Construction and development cost for 20 years, Diplo rep and vassalization acceptance for 30 years, and prestige, Diplo and trade power for a while. These buffs seem helpful if you are organically growing as Sardinia-Piedmont. In my case, maybe only the Diplo rep was worth it. To become Congo, you'll know what I'm going to do. I've moved my capital to a province with the Congolese culture, we unstate our old capital, and we culture shift to Congolese. We can now restore the Congo kingdom. And of course, I'm going to keep my Prussian ideas. The main reason I became Congo is to get one extra missionary. From this branch of missions on the left side, it will activate once we get the Catholic Congo event. Here is one of the super strong missions I'm talking about. Until the end of the game, monthly autonomy change, minus 20% liberty desired subjects, and 15% extra maximum absolutism. These are all meaningful buffs for the World Conquest. All we need to do to get it now is eliminate the rebels. Here is another overpowered mission, minus 2 national revolt, less prestige decay, and 10% maximum governing capacity. Again, a gem for the World Conquest. It says we will lose these buffs once we change our culture. I will most likely become the Roman Empire. I don't know if becoming Roman will cancel this. And finally, here is another powerful mission. Again, until the end of the game, 10% morale of armies and navies and 10% national manpower. More importantly, 15% discount on the war score cost versus other religions. Right now, this is most of the world. And just for completion's sake, this was the mission I was really after. Until the end of the game, one extra missionary, plus 25% manpower in Catholic provinces. So guys, don't tell me I didn't show you, the Congolese mission tree is one of the strongest in the game. We now have 5 missionaries, we should get at least 3 more, maybe 4, and our conversions are going swimmingly. And now I can max out my stated land. Unless something changes, I'm not going to change my tags anymore, until I become the Roman Empire. But for that, I don't need to culture shift. Here is the event I was talking about. It usually comes very fast. It gives us the choice to remain fetishist, which we are not, or replace the fetishist mission tree branch with the Catholic one. And that's exactly what we want. We can now start ticking off this branch, giving us prestige, a couple of stability levels, 100 papal influence. Just need to remember to spend some current papal influence before taking this one. For the next mission, we needed to develop our capital to 25, so I concentrated development back in Europe. Not sure what it does, looks like we are losing 5,000 ducats. And to get our extra missionary, we need to convert 100 provinces in Africa to Catholic. Now we have 37. It's kinda funny, I get rewarded with a missionary after I convert 100 provinces. Quite a few missions in Paradox are backwards like this. You get the reward which would have helped you to complete the mission in the first place. I just noticed this mission is not bad either. For 100 years I get a colonist and some global settler increase. I don't need to colonize a lot, just a few provinces in Africa as it happens. This comes very handy. There we go, he can go colonize Sahara. The next mission gives us gems in Luanda and some production increase. And for now that's it, we have done what we could do immediately or with minimum effort. For the other missions we will need to work a little bit. Imagine the Russian surprise, being attacked by the imperialist Congo. One thing I kinda regret is not taking this land in Africa from Portugal before making them my junior partner. One of my missions requires me to dominate trade here, and now I will need to integrate Portugal. Look, after I won just one war against the Ottomans, they have completely collapsed. They are basically being invaded by their neighbors non-stop. I've now met conditions for this nice mission, pretty cool. From Russia I'm taking a lot of their land in Caucasus because they have a lot of nasty forts there and this bunch of provinces in Europe. These are the lands I took here in the south. Versus the massive size of Russia, this doesn't look like a lot. I will still have some more admin efficiency and with time should be able to take even more land. I'm moving my capital back to Europe. It makes more sense to me to have Africa in trade companies rather than in states, and because I am the shining light of Catholicism, to have my capital in Rome. Halfway through our wars in East Africa, we completed this mission, getting our famous missionary, and continued to expand. We now can paint noticeable chunks of map with our color in one go. From Spain, as always, I'm first trying to take the most remote islands. Some of these islands had top-level forts, which took me a few years to siege. In fact, I may be able to annex Spain in a single war. Ideally, I would want to take a monument here in Mexico for myself, because it gives another Catholic missionary. You see, by the way, my admin efficiency is modifying the province war score cost by minus 83%. To make sure I fully annex Spain, I had to manually scroll through hundreds of provinces to find every single one belonging to Spain itself. And now the tooltip shows that it will be a full annexation. That's the best possible outcome. We inherit all of Spain's colonial nations. This also completes one of our overpowered missions, because now no independent European power owns any provinces in Africa. Only 3 or 4 nations are still independent in Europe overall, simply because they had no strategic importance for me until now. Only one of the new colonial nations I have inherited from Spain is slightly disloyal. These days, there are a lot of interactions you can have with them to make them loyal again. I did not want to wait many more years until I could integrate Portugal, so I released one province here to Luba and intentionally lost my war to them, giving them a bunch of provinces that I will need to dominate in terms of trade. And before they could understand what is happening, I broke my truce with them and declared I get enough papal influence to get 2 levels of stability back immediately. By the way, before I forget, I did not get to keep the Mexican provinces directly. They reverted back to the colonial Mexico, so I miss out on an extra missionary. This was an obviously easy war with Luba, and we get our next mission completed. These are a couple of simple trading missions and the one which improves our army and war score. To complete this mission tree, I had to play around with the loyalty and influence of our estates, probably my least favorite type of mission. but it's now done. And we get a lot of serious buffs that I had mentioned before. While mission hunting, I also wrapped up my war against the Ottomans and Kilva, and I can annex both in one swoop. I know I said that I will not be changing my cultures again, but now that this mission tree is complete, I decided to go back to my Germanic roots and reform Germany. For that, I shifted my culture back to Saxon, and there we are Germany. Since we have started this game as Dithmarschen, this feels kind of right to me. The German ideas are really strong, and I decided to switch to them. And now we get an entirely new mission tree to get even more permanent buffs. I will be forming the Roman Empire next. From what I remember, when I form it, I will keep this mission tree. An interesting idea could be to switch to Spanish culture and form the Roman Empire as Spain, simply to inherit the overpowered mission tree. Okay, for this mission I need a highly developed ally. Luckily, countries still exist who want to ally me. Yep, it's possible that we'll be able to click off the entire mission tree. This top branch gives a lot of claims, but the deeper you go, the more meaningful the rewards become. We also get a whole lot of diplo and military mana and some trade help. We are now earning 2,600 ducats, and that's without optimizing our trade that much. Money has long stopped being a limiting factor. I have been dumping it into buildings and monuments. Because I have just integrated England, I can core all of that land for free. I don't need any more admin efficiency, otherwise I could have formed England before forming Germany. Some of these rewards are a little bit underwhelming, especially for late game, although overall this German mission tree is outstanding. -5 separatism and cheaper harsh treatment is always good, even if it's just for a while. Brittany has had a good game. It got the Burgundian inheritance, it has built quite a colonial empire for itself, and it has survived much longer than most European countries. I almost got emotionally attached to them. But from now, the name of the game is pretty much cleanup. We have a few countries in Europe, Russia, India and Far East left to conquer, so Brittany's time has come. That, along with its friends, it seems to have allied all the remaining countries in Europe. And Portugal gets integrated too. I'm starting to feel lonely without all my old friends. Now tell me if you don't like this next mission. 100 military points and almost 1,000,000 manpower. And with this we take our final shape, the Roman Empire. Some of the strongest ideas and government type in the game. We have more than maxed out our admin efficiency and will be above 90% at the next technology. We will still get 2.5% admin efficiency from the last government reform. Since I'm going for the one faith without moving my capital into the new world and directly owning every single province, I'm setting all my colonial nations to increase religious control. This makes them convert their provinces to Catholic. Of course, I have forced my religion on all of them. Ooh, I just noticed that because I'm a theocracy, I did not get the Roman government. In my tier 1 government reform, I remained the Teutonic bishopric. It's actually logical, and this government is not too bad anyway. One piece of absolutely mind-numbing micromanagement I'm doing is building cathedrals in all the wrong religion provinces to gain +3 missionary strength. In many provinces, I have to delete the previous buildings first. I wish there were a button to automate this. I am the only independent Catholic nation left, with 100% chance of being the papal controller. As for the conquest, it's now just brute force. Or grind, whatever you want to think about it. We have fully optimized our country by now. All we need to do is roll over the remaining world with our millions of troops. I did not go revolutionary, which would have given me zero cost for the unjustified demands, so I'm trying not to separate peace large countries too much. It helps that we can now take entire sections of them up in a single peace deal. I know I am over-optimizing at this stage, but now I can take my final mission-based 5% admin efficiency. I could have done it earlier, but it took a while to optimize the loyalty and influence balance of one of the estates. If you are interested, we have +28% admin efficiency from our missions and 5% from Alhambra. We are over 90%, but 90% is the cap. I wanted to be a little bit over in case I ever go over my governing capacity. Now, Russia in this game has pretty much recreated the Soviet Union borders, and with all my efficiency I can take most of their land. I don't enjoy the long distance travel in Siberia, so I'm leaving them some compact land here in the middle. Qing is allied with Japan, so we separate piece Japan with all its overseas territories. This is full annexation of course, and as soon as the Japanese cores are complete, we take most of Qing. As you see, I'm obviously going after the biggest remaining countries, so I can take them out in a couple of wars without truce breaking before the end of the game. I also need to target the remaining highest development provinces, so I have enough time left for their religious conversion. Well, in this war we can take all of Bengal and a bit of Yarkland in one peace deal. Now we have only the Indian subcontinent and the Spice Islands left to conquer. It's worth mentioning that I have gone for the military hegemony, a bit late admittedly because the world is pretty much conquered. Still, this hegemony helps quite a bit. As you saw just now, we can take the second biggest power in one war, with war score to spare. Even if the remaining countries may look large on the map, they are all one-deal shots, so to speak. Like Deccan here, for example, all of its provinces for 70% war score, and all of Ayutthaya for 21%. I am not speedrunning really, I'm fighting only one, maximum two wars at any one time, simply because I have only 9 missionaries, and even if I conquer fast, I'll still be sitting around converting provinces. But every time my previous batch of cores is complete, I have new ones to core. You may have noticed that although my money is maxed out, I still demand money in the peace deals. I like to think it's not because I'm so unreasonably greedy, it's just an automatic movement at this stage. At this relaxed pace, I absorbed all the remaining countries, and in 1798 we annexed the last one standing, Scotland, about whose existence I completely forgot. We have more than 20 years to finish converting everyone to Catholic, and just to be safe, I continue spamming cathedrals everywhere, and then I put enforced religious unity in all the conquered states. In August 1819, we convert the last non-Catholic province on behalf of our colonial nation, and that's it, our goal is complete. Our tiny swampy Dithmarschen has conquered the entire world and made everyone Catholic. There is no one left to conquer and no one left to convert. Could I have done it faster than 1819? Probably. After all, I made a big detour becoming Protestant first, and then flipping back to Catholic. It wasn't efficient, but it was fun. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It will motivate me to create more. Thank you for watching and see you soon.